I'm going to try it again without trying to stream on two different things, which is always fun. And if you're here live, put in the chat that you're here, and we are going to get started. I am just loving Instagram so much. You have no idea. And sometimes it's one of those deals that we get things in our life that aren't always what we are wanting. So I am going to welcome everybody to this Monday Mindset Magic. And so I've been doing this every Monday for several weeks now. We do it at 9 o'clock on Monday mornings. That would be 9 o'clock Central Time. So if you are in some place where there is no daylight savings time and your time changes, it's always going to be 9 o'clock Central Time, which is Texas time. And I am so excited to share with you this morning. I just came back from a weekend, a women's retreat of doing a whole lot of really deep work. And one of the things that didn't even come out of the retreat, it was on an audio. I was coming back from Austin. Austin is, or depending on how fast you drive, 5+ hours away from where I am. And after being at a retreat for the whole weekend without much sleep, driving can be a little bit of a challenge. And that being said, last week I talked about some affirmations and how you can begin to be curious and how you can look at how your belief systems work and just really acknowledge what it is that your mind is telling you. And when you do this, you begin to literally see things in a different light. And what I heard was on this video, which I've heard the word before, but I didn't really incorporate it into what I want to share with you today. And that is the term cognitive dissonance. It's actually been bantered around with a lot of conversation about the world events, and you may have even heard it and not really understood it completely. But I wanted to put it in a context that brings it down to what is actually happening in your life on a day-to-day basis. So it was actually coined back in 1953, I believe, by a gentleman whose name I'm sorry, I don't remember, but you can certainly look it up on Google because everything's on Google. Um, the idea behind cognitive dissonance is your cognition. So have you ever heard of cognitive behavior? It's the way you think, right? It's our brain. And so when we talk about mindset, it's all about this, it's about thoughts, it's about congruency. So when you have cognitive, meaning cognition, thoughts that are not in alignment with you, who you are, and how you behave, right? So here's an example, just little things, but I want you to begin to think about how you are cognitively dissident in your own life. Because believe me, if you're watching this, I can assure you that you are. Let's say that you are a smoker, right? I'm going to use this as an example. There's lots of them, and I'll use a couple of examples. So let's say that you're a smoker and you say, I want to stop smoking, or I don't want to smoke. I'm just going to check in here and see if we have some people that are showing up and I can say hi. So think about this. You are a smoker and you are saying that I don't want to be a smoker or I don't want to smoke. And the fact is that you are cognitively dissonant with yourself. Because when our actions don't meet what our thoughts are, there is incongruity here in ourselves. And what does that cause? You can put it in the chat if you know what it is. But the fact is it's stress. It's stress. And because we live in this world that has so much information coming at us, in this day and age, back in the when we were hunter gatherers, there wasn't a lot of cognitive dissonance because we were in survival mode. We were everything that was being done was mostly we were provide men were providing food, women were gathering, and we're bringing it all together to the tribe, and we were raising children, and we were really in that mindset of I am doing these things so that this physical body can actually survive on the planet. And as things began to get easier, as life went on and the Industrial Revolution and just all planting and growing crops, all of these things have allowed us to begin to think more. There's always been the ability to have thoughts, but when you're looking at life as I'm doing these things so that I can provide for myself to exist on the planet, and now there's all this support for you to exist on the planet, you're not thinking about those things, but we still have the mindset of someone that was in survival mode and paying attention to the fear that goes on out there. False evidence appearing real is what we have now instead of actual fear from a lion, tiger, or bear. And when you have cognitive dissonance, it's about saying one thing to yourself and then behaving in a different way. And it causes stress because your mind doesn't know the difference between what you tell it and what reality is out there in the world. The way I want you to look at cognitive dissonance, though, let's say that you have relationships that are not serving you. So your mind says, I don't want these types of toxic relationships, but you keep staying in that relationship. Or I don't like the way that my body looks. I know I should eat differently or move my body, and yet you don't do anything to create that experience. Let's say that you have a dream or a passion and you want to follow that and you do nothing about it. You stay stuck where you are. That doesn't cause alignment in your overall beingness as a human being. So you get stressed as a result of it. And it's underlying low level stress that we carry around and carry around and carry around. So to resolve that is we have to begin to have our thoughts match our behavior. Well, as I said last week, you can begin to look at affirmations. You can begin to be curious about the truth of those thoughts. You can begin to look at life as how do I reconcile what I'm thinking with what I'm doing? And it's not something that you have to do and upheaval your whole life. It's small incremental steps. So let's use weight as an example. If you say to yourself, I'm not happy with my body, I don't like the way I weigh, I don't like any version of that conversation, because what it ends up being is, I don't feel that I'm good enough to do X, Y, or Z. So that messaging is going on here. And yet there's another message that you're giving to yourself because of your behavior that says, I want it to be different. And when you begin to take action steps, not just your mind, but begin to feel what that would feel like for you to experience being that person that you say you want to be, one step at a time, you will begin to come, you're way out here out of alignment. You can begin to bring that alignment more in congruency instead of dissonance. So if you are really courageous today, put in the chat, whichever platform you're watching on, how you feel like you're cognitively dissonant today. It's just simple things. But when you begin to recognize those, it really becomes so critical to moving you towards this being that you say you want to be in the world. Because I assure you that as long as we're on the planet, we're not this perfect being that we say we want to be. And I'll give you a tell on myself. One of my cognitive dissonance is that um, I'm very organized in some ways of my life, but I'm very disorganized when it comes to stuff. And disorganization or chaos, because that's what it shows up for me, is a thing that because when our behaviors help us feel safe. So disorganization or chaos, if you will, is something that makes me feel safe. And I have been paying attention to that more. My office has got papers everywhere. And I happened to go on this lovely trip. And what happens is, and I started to become very curious about it, is I tell myself that there's not enough time. As an abundance teacher, I find that hilarious because there's plenty of money, not always enough time. That's just a mindset, that's a story. So I left on this trip. Anytime I'm leaving on a trip and I'm in my car, I can just throw things in the car. So by the time of the end of the trip, there was so much, and I have a great little SUV. It's not little, it's big. And I was throwing things in there and I couldn't find something this morning and I had to take everything out of the car. So now the chaos is in the kitchen, but it will be not there after this video. One of those things that was me reconciling how this cognitive dissonance is with this chaos is taking those baby steps to resolve that and realign it, and knowing that there's enough time. So even today, I was a little bit rushed getting on here and setting this up through StreamYard and all these platforms. And the fact is that you can find cognitive dissonance all over your life. I promise you. And when you do, what things are really important for you to begin to bring more into alignment so that your life is more in harmony, so that your mindset then is the person that you want to show up in the world? Maybe it's just changing the fact that you have a negative thought about everything that presents itself to you. And being on social media, which is how I'm disseminating this information, is a great place to begin to recognize how are you reacting to posts, to videos, to reels, to any of that stuff. When you have an immediate reaction of, I'm going to say how I don't like that, how I believe that that's not the truth, when the reality is, what's causing that charge for you? What's causing this misalignment for you? And really just begin to notice that your cognitive dissonance is sprinkled throughout your life, and noticing where those areas are and what baby steps you can take to begin to shift this mindset, because it all starts with our thoughts. Our thoughts then create our actions, which complete our beliefs. And then we have another thought to support that belief that is not serving us. So, for today, if you watch this video later, put in the comments how your cognitive dissonance is showing up in your life today, where your thoughts are not matching your actions and you really truly want to have something else. Because once you start integrating the behavior that supports the true belief that you want to have, you will let those cognitive thoughts that are not supporting you be pushed out, because you're going to fill it up with something that you truly do want. And using those affirmations that I shared about last week, using the curiosity and all of the things that I've been sharing on this Monday Mindset Magic. And you can go back and look them up, because there's great wisdom in just reflecting on how you're thinking and how you got those thoughts. One of the things I always share with people is, how did you learn blank? How did you learn to be happy? How did you learn what joy is? How did you learn what money does for you? How did you learn how physicality shows up in the world? How did you learn how health and wellness is in your world? Because we learned all of that, and now we've created it as a story, which now we call a belief. And the truth of the reality is you don't have to accept any of the beliefs that you have if they don't serve you. They're not reality. They're just a story. So enjoy your week. Spend some time thinking about your cognitive dissonance, and I will see you next Monday morning. Queen of Magic out.